Hi, I'm Chippa Khan. This is the Changing Times, Changing Worlds Wednesday show. And tonight we're going to be talking about divination and how you can make your own divination system. It's going to be, to a certain extent, a little bit of a, oh, of course I do. Here, I've got immediately getting a message because, of course, I'm. Once you're, where is there? Okay, so yeah, somebody I've got Reverend Freya is watching, so we're all good. So yeah, tonight we're going to be talking about divination and how to make your own, because frankly, what is divination except a way of getting information when you can't figure out another way of doing it? And well, that's interesting. Theoretically, this is supposed to automatically go to whoever's talking. Well, fine, I'm going back to gallery. And there are different ways of doing divination, and there are two, I think, overreaching parts. One is basic psychic stuff. When you're using your own natural abilities, it's like if you touch something, you feel it. If you're looking at something and there's light, you see it. If there's sound moving around, you hear things. If you open yourself to it, you can have psychic responses. So that's one way, and the other is to set up symbols so that you can give yourself a set of symbols that you can use to work with. And all these are any symbol, anything. A soothsayer worth their salt can make a system out of just about anything. I believe, and have said many times, that you can, that I think tarot came from people playing tarotchi and looking at the cards and saying, gee, there's patterns here that don't have to do with the gambling game we're playing. Mm. And so if you are, if you want to learn how to do divination the psychic way, basically you have to learn to get your head into the right alpha, beta, theta, whatever rhythm it is, so that you can be receptive. And the best ways to do that are, you could look at a crystal, you could look at a fire, you could look at water, you could look into the distance, you know, like those where you can see a picture in the pattern if you focus beyond it, that type of thing. Those are interesting ways. Or as Trish Telesko suggested, you can look at turn off your computer and look at your computer screen, because subconsciously we have all been trained to get answers out of our computer. So if you're looking at your computer and looking for an answer to appear, that's a great way of scrying for modern people. So, but if you want for the symbols, the important thing is to understand the symbols that you are using. And I've always felt that you should use symbols that you understand, that are quite clear to you. And if you understand sports, then a touchdown or a third base or whatever is going to mean something to you that it doesn't mean to me. Whereas I was listening to Gilbert and Sullivan last week and thinking, oh, that means that, oh, right. And if this is, and looking at the characters in the Mikado as archetypes, and suddenly, oh, this would make a great divination system. Hmm. Sure, if you get Gilbert and Sullivan, if these things are second nature to you, that right, will work for you. If it isn't, it's not going to work for you. So depending on whether you're into sports, whether you're into movies, a TV show. I know people who use the symbol set of Babylon 5. And they get it. If somebody new joins their coven, they sit them down and they marathon the entire 5 seasons of Babylon 5. And now you will understand what we're talking about when we say Ranger. And
I can imagine someone doing that with Firefly as well.
Yeah, you could, because archetypes.
Yeah.
Archetypes work if you understand them. The reason that the language of astrology is the language of people, is the language of palmistry. This is Venus, and this is Jupiter, and this is Saturn, and this is Apollo, and this is Mercury. That means something to people who know something about Jupiter and Apollo and Mercury, and that means something. I've seen another form of divination where they, of palmistry, where they use Norse gods instead. They mean each of them, if those are the ones you know, those are the ones you should use. I've been thinking about trying to work up a divination system for food, because food is very meaningful for us. But you should use symbols that you understand. You have to, and for instance, I found a beautiful set of gaming dice. Now, if you're involved in Changing Times, Changing Worlds for a while, you know that we frequently have a backdrop with the Aurora Borealis. That's just what we use. That's because, a little egotistical here, Chipicon means the Aurora Borealis. So, so way back when we were starting, we threw that up as this is a beautiful background. It's very spiritual. It means dance of the dead. It's the spirits dancing in the sky. So cool. But I found some dice that looked like they got the swirly patterns, and I said, oh, I could make a divination system out of these, and then we could sell them with the little booklet as a fundraiser for Changing Times, Changing Worlds. And I'm still working on it. So far, I've got, well, the D4 four-sided die will be good for anything that uses the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and water. And as a ceremonial magician friend of mine says, when you are into that, everything that is 4 becomes earth, air, fire, or water, as they then divided. How long ago was this? They were able to divide the 4 Star Treks captains at the time. Only 4, yes, there were only 4.
Once upon a time, there were only 4.
Right.
But they, that obviously Picard was air, and Kirk was fire, and was it Deep Space Nine? Was Cisco was water, and who was the 4th? I forget. Anyway, Janeway was earth. but you could, anything there are 4 of, immediately you have to divide them into earth, air, fire, and water. So, and then for D6, to me, D6 is how you roll up your characters. Rolling up D6 is good for figuring out personality traits. You need, this is based on if you're into gaming. And if you are using gaming dice, presumably you know how these work. So you can find out about a person by using the D6. D10 is for yeah.
It's Lyrian over here, and hi. If I have no familiarity whatsoever with any of your modern analogies, but I'm looking at all when we had a class and we did the divination section, which was chapter 11, I think, we came up with all the auguries and all the mancies, of which there are legion. And there's only one that's the tarot or the runes, but there's you know, there's Austromancy and Bellomancy and Bibliomancy and Capnomancy, and my personal favorite was the Libdomancy, which was the interpretation of steaming lead. You know, so when you're talking about divination, are you just only talking about tarot? Is that what this session is about?
Oh, good Lord, no.
Oh,
No,
okay.
what this particular session is about, which is why I was hoping you would be here, is how to develop your own. Because going back to what I was just saying was, see, as I am preventing, and I'm just going to finish that so it's I can scroll it off my screen. And so the D12s would be good for time, figuring out what month or what hour something is, or anything astrological with 12. And of course, D20, success or failure or critical failure of whatever you're about to do. So I'm still working on that one. So I think that that is my introduction to, you can do it about anything. And I want to talk about it. Now, the reason I asked Lyrian if she could make it tonight is because she does what she called tossing the bones. Until I saw her do it, I figured she was tossing bones around. but no, she was talking about
it's involving the casting of small objects like pebbles or colored crystal beans, small sticks or bones, anything in short suitable for the word lots. And it was practiced in ancient Egypt and Rome, where it was typically consecrated to the god Mercury. And it's also, let me see, there was something, it's where you learn to lend small objects energies, your energy, like a ring, an earring, a house key or something appended from the querent. And who is this, by the way?
This is Zoloft.
Zoloft.
Zoloft and Prozac and you know, various. I figure that if in the commercials they always show the very depressed person, the beginning, at the end they show them happily petting a cat. I said, we'll go straight to the fuzz therapy.
Yes.
But
being a priestess, there was something in me that sort of said, okay, if you're a priestess, you must know how to read the tarot. So of course I went out and immediately got the Heinrich deck, which is the most complicated, god awful, impossible deck that has Chinese characters, Hebrew letters, runes, as well as you have to be very, very aware of the subtleties of coloration in the thing. Suffice it to say, I looked at it, it looked back, and that was the end of doing tarot. Yeah, you know, so forget it. But shortly thereafter, I realized that for reasons unknown, I had been collecting things. I'd finding things. I'd open a car door and there would be a thing on the pavement and it had meaning. And so I started collecting them and I would put them under my breasts at night to feel what they said, to feel what they were, and then began to add them in together. So that's how I sort of started my divination, which is different from others. But when the bones speak, they speak real well. There are other times when the bones speak, I'm not listening well.
Yeah.
So that's always something that
important point.
Yeah. You have to know to open your mouth, open your ears and listen. But there's just so many different Mancies.
But what I'm trying to say tonight is that we can make our own. The most important thing is that you understand what your symbols are saying. So if you speak in sports, you could work on your own divination system. Would you be willing to talk about some of the, now of how your system
Yeah.
works a little bit. I do want to get to other forms, but
Sure.
I'm eager to have you share yours because it's so cool.
Thank you very much. Yes, it just so happens I have a little setup here. And I don't know how, I'm coming in on an iPad, so I'm not sure just how well this is going to work.
If you find the right setting, you can make sure that Stasia's image is bigger for us.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay, and you're Jenny?
I'm Jenny. I'm an old friend of Chip Khan's from back when I still lived in New Hampshire.
Ah, and where are you now? You look like you're in Siena somewhere.
No, actually, that is an interesting image. I have a friend that I've known for decades, since I was in high school. I've known her all my life. We have never met. But starting in high school, I kept getting told, there's this person, this girl who looks exactly like you. There's this person who looks like you. I'd go different places and meet different people, and they'd say, you know, there's this girl who looks just like you. I finally wound up rooming with a roommate who was this girl's best friend in college.
Wow.
Still didn't meet her. And I've actually exchanged emails and text messages with her now.
Have you seen her?
And she lives in Arizona, and she took this photograph. So I stole it from her and just kind of loved it. So that's why it's a beautiful shot of Arizona.
Ah.
And I've never been there.
Ah. Before I get going, I wanted to introduce you all. I don't know if you can see her, but this is my goddess. She is nothing more nor nothing less than a beaver chewed piece of, I believe it's beech wood that I found, but she looks pregnant. She is the mother, she is the maiden, and she is the crone. And she sits at, whenever I do a reading. So I have this. It's the field that I use, that I put all these things on my bones. I use the word bones, but it's the pieces of found objects. Open up the field, and inside is a beautiful old, my grandmother's old, one of the lovely old lace, like a handkerchief that ladies would tuck into their bosoms probably with lavender or something in there on a warm day. Anyway, this is from my grandmother, and there are, let's see. I haven't counted them, but there are a series of, can you see that, objects? Oh, there. Well, my goodness. Okay, let me put this here. Hang on.
So what are the ones that leapt out of your hand telling us?
Yeah, that was the feminine. That was this, the indicator for the feminine forces. And I will have to find her later, or that or else Twinkle will.
I also read leapers, whether it's cards or anything else.
Yes, I do. And the thing I say, okay, because I asked the querent to shift these objects in their hands while they're considering their question or the issue that they want to address. And if it falls out 3 times, we remove it from the reading, because then it has indicated he doesn't want to be there, or there's no need for it to be in that particular reading. But I have the field that I have is velvet, double layer, and inside between one layer and the next, I have put in stones, I put in herbs, and I put in parts of my body in there, fingernails, hair. Yeah, pretty much fingernails and hair. Now, so that when something falls, when one of the objects is cast onto this field, it will also have an added impetus of things that are hidden, not seen from either myself or the querent. Okay, so I have objects here that represent all kinds of things. I have, let me see. See, this is the bone of destiny. Whether or not you are meeting your destiny, if not, what to do. There's transformation here. I'm looking at the ring of partnership, which may or may not be a marriage, a wedding. It could be a partnership with your business partner, or the guy who has come and you signed a contract to fix your refrigerator. That's a partnership. Let me see, what else do I have? I have this small bell that indicates, watch out, pay attention to the bones in this area. And so on and so forth. There's approximately 30 something of them. When they're cast by the querent, and I will cleanse in between each reading, I will cleanse the bag filled with these things. I'll cleanse it over a fire, and I'll go counterclockwise to banish any energies that from the previous reader querent. So when these things are cast, I will look at what's in the middle, what is closest to the querents. I'll have them put a significator in either a ring that they've had, or earrings, or, you know, one guy came, he wanted to give me this chunk of house keys. He says, it's the only thing I have. But no, honey, this is not going to do it. So I have a significator that I can use for men, usually who don't wear earrings or who don't have, you know, a small piece to give. So I will look and see what pieces are near the significator, the querent. What's coming up? Where is the querent placed on the line? I have a line that goes from left to right. And the only, this is a little green, old little green, like a marble. Its only use is to show which side I will read from. So I'll start wherever the significator lies, and I will find out where the green ball is, and I will know, okay, I will read from left to right or from right to left, depending. So, and then I will look to make phrases that hopefully make sense. Sometimes they make no sense to me at all, but if I say it out loud, quite frequently, the querent will go, oh, yes. I had several very bizarre and telling incidences where I had my ring of partnership was jammed in with the significator. And I was having, because it was a ring that the significator, that the querent left. And the two of them were just jammed and unable to come apart. And I thought, this is a first. I said, I've never seen this. And I said, I'm not really too sure. It's like you're jammed inside. You have a partnership with yourself. I don't understand that. And the querent said, would it help you to know that I have been diagnosed with multiple personalities? So I said, okay. So take the banana out of your ear and listen to what the pieces are telling you, because that's, you know, and there were a couple of other interesting, but that was one of the more outstanding ones. So I will look and see what is adjacent to the querent, what is opposite it. Where are they on the lines? Are they above the line, indicating things that have not yet come into reality? Are they below the line, which indicates that these are things that are of the subconscious? If they're on the line, great. This means that the querent will actually come into contact, or these are the obstacles that need to be overcome. And then we try to figure out how do we overcome them? And so that's, like I said, when the bones speak and they speak well, then it's really rewarding. And other times, there have been times when I've just turned and back and I've said, listen, here's your money back. They're not talking, I'm not hearing, and I'm not going to take your money for a crappy reading. So, yeah. So that's what the bones are about. And hang on, these were let me see, it was it was they're consecrated to the god Mercury, but they were also used by the three wise men. A form of chloromancy was used by the three wise men in their search for, allegedly, this is, so any questions?
That's pretty cool. I like that. Well, well, Lyrian was gardening once. She found a little baby like you get in a nativity set.
Oh.
And
yeah,
is that still in your bone set?
No, that one is not. That one
Gun
is
walkabout.
there. Some of them, what's also interesting is, and you can look for all kinds of meanings. Some things come into the set, and some things just, I look and it's like, oh, well, where did that thing go? It's not there anymore. Well, okay, I have to sort of roll with the punches and say, for whatever reason, it's in another dimension right now being used. So, yeah.
Yeah, that happens. I think that's true.
Yeah.
We get I've seen, I was surprised very early on to discover that you can be missing cards from your deck of tarot cards and not even notice for months and still get good readings, because sometimes
They're
it is
just,
simply
yeah.
a random symbol generator, and cards pack flat.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So cards are a good thing. And as anybody who plays with tarot or any kind of oracle deck knows, you can make symbols of anything. I'm going to try and pull my daughter in here. I think you may be able to see her behind me.
That cat?
Yeah, that's Kat, who is working on a Doctor Who divination set. It was tarot, right?
Yes, it was tarot.
I move these things. You can sit down.
Oh, there's two behind. I can
Sit there. Which is a cool thing. And then, after we've gone through a couple of these, then we can start talking about how we can come up with our own. I think that the Pokemon, I'm looking at the chat, somebody has done it with stickers, and somebody has done it with Pokemon. And
that would be interesting, the Pokemon cards, because I'm just thinking of how the different types interact with each other.
Mm.
it's like alchemy is a wonderful set, because if you find someone who has the characteristics of gold, and then you have someone who has the characteristics of tin, you find somebody who has the characteristics of copper, you can pretty much guess that if you put the copper and the tin person together, they're going to have the characteristics of bronze. And that's the symbol way of that. That's how alchemy becomes a brilliant symbolic system. So, but Catherine works online with many people who understand the logic, the symbol set of Doctor Who. And I'd like you to talk about that a bit, and then we'll talk about your other ones as well. But I want to do that after the Doctor Who.
Oh, of course. Well, my thought was distinctly a Doctor Who tarot, and I've been debating whether or not to do this as, especially in Japan where they're sold as collectors, just art sets. It is often that you will get a set of tarot cards that is just the major arcana and the court cards, and all the time, if the artist from a series will say, oh, I'm going to illustrate this shortened tarot as a series from my art thing, and those obviously can be used, and kind of basing it off that and trying to decide whether or not to do the full tarot in the Doctor Who tarot. But I'm leaning towards yes doing the minor arcana, because there's a lot of symbols that come from the minor arcana, which have distinct places, which I can distinctly connect to pieces of stuff that's happened on Doctor Who.
You should give an example.
Yes, I should. I was trying to think of something.
Thinking of the word adipose.
Oh. I'm not sure if I used the adipose I'm in anything, because I mainly think in terms of old Who. So I'm not like, I've got to get every new Who monster in here. So but the thing that I was doing was, instead of having kings, queens, pages, and knights, I was having doctors, companions, masters, and aliens. And there would be I actually think of doing 2 companions of each, so we could have one of the male companions and one of the female companions. So both Brigadier Leopard, Stewart, and Ace would be the companions of swords. And then the war doctor would probably be the doctor of swords, because he was the one who fought. And then we would have probably Rose Tyler as the companion of cups, because dance with the doctor. Not Grace. I'm not doing Grace as the companion of cups, even though she was the first person to kiss the doctor, because it is in the I think it's better symbolically. And Rose also shows up in the Lovers, not because she's a lover, but because the Lovers represents a choice between 2 good things, and the Lovers would be her choice in Doomsday, when she is given the choice between traveling with the doctor and living a good life in Pete's world. And in Italy, she doesn't get, even though she makes the choice, she doesn't get to keep the choice that she made, but that's still very symbolically with the Lovers. And trying to think of other, I was going to have the Magician be the 7th Doctor, particularly taking the image from Greatest Show in the Galaxy, where there's basically a shot in the Greatest Show in the Galaxy where I think they'd already shown tarot cards in that episode, so they knew what they were doing when they put the Doctor in front of a table with various items. He was holding a sword above his head. They knew exactly what they were doing with that. It was very much in the traditional magician pose. Yeah. Trying to think of anything else relevant about that, but I think I've got the idea.
Yeah, well, basically, this is a wonderful illustration of how you can make a system. Now, let's say that doing a specified tarot is adapting another system, but you can make a system out of anything. And you pull your cards. I don't know if you have encountered this, but in October they have exercise called Inktober. You may have heard of NaNoWriMo, where people write novels in November, and in October, Inktober, you draw a drawing every day. And during that, Catherine and Willow have come up with a huge number of, can
Yeah,
you
we
hold
do.
them toward the green light there?
Yeah.
And
Let me
3 or 4 of them.
something that shows
I'm gonna
up,
just,
shows up better on camera.
and I will ask people to look at it and see if they can say, audience participation here,
Okay.
what you think of symbolically,
Here's a
because
good one for that. Hold that right up to the camera.
there, and can you see that one? Can we,
Here's
let
my
me
make out the images of this
maybe
size.
speaker view, come on, speaker view. And now I'm seeing Jenny. Oh, darn.
Yeah, I can't see the images big enough there.
Oh, it can't, it's not, it's like,
Oh.
but it, why am I not, is pin video gonna get it on me? Yes,
Yeah,
there we go.
it'll pin it to you.
Okay, then I can take it off when we're, okay,
Oh, they're doing shadow puppets.
yeah, well, look at the shadow.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
so if you had made your own set of cards, and this is just your basic blank index cards,
Mhm.
and that came up, you'd have a reading. I am reminded of, there's a new thing coming in. Several artists have added something called the happy squirrel to their decks, and which has become a great symbol of something that looks cute and innocent and is going to mess you up.
Okay.
You like that one? I'm not sure what the prompt
Considering-
was for the
Isolated.
isolated. Okay.
And that one is just
Upside down landed.
This one? Okay, yeah.
But as you can see, you can come up with symbolism.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Cards are a great way to create random symbols and randomize them. Shuffling randomizes. It's a great way of doing symbols.
The
Can I-
emphasis
Oh,
are
go ahead.
exquisite. I have to say they're absolutely exquisite. I don't know who drew them, but
Agreed, they're beautiful.
they're exquisite. Yeah, they are. Yeah.
But you can find things. I have somebody else who's developed a system not significantly different than Lyrian's.
I'm just gonna hold up cards randomly while you talk.
Can you get it there?
Yeah.
And I want to get that one closer. Look at that. Symbolism.
Oh, this one's fun symbolically. I've been trying to pick ones that'll show up well on camera, but that one just wires coming out of the vein.
Yeah. Small objects. Dice are a good small object. Cards pack flat. If you, it helps if you happen to be good at art. If not, maybe you have a friend.
Or you can hire someone. Artists love getting commission.
Oh, yes.
Or use
there's
photographs
a
that
lot-
symbolize what you want.
So, but basically, let us talk a little bit about symbols, because the symbols, that's the next thing to talk about. Oh, I love that one.
Okay.
My reaction to that one was it's hard to remember that you were there to drain the swamp when you're hip deep in alligators.
Yeah.
And I was looking at her and I was saying, she's got the wrong tool, unless of course what she's trying to do is get the alligators.
Yeah.
But so whatever it is ought to be randomized. As Lyrian has with her tossing the bones, she has a line along which there is a progression along the line. Sometimes if the time frame is important, you have to decide how you're going to indicate time. The first thing you want to know is What is the freaking question? Different daughter, different art style.
Yeah. But I really
Very
like
nice.
the symbols in there.
And so if you're going to have a timeline, if you're going to have people, you ought to have some way of distinguishing the people. Very early on, in the 60s, tarot often was saying, this is a blonde person, this is a dark-haired person, this is a male, this is a female. These days, we need more than two genders. We need more ages. We need some way of putting that in. Sometimes what you're looking for is when. The question that you need answer is going to define the divination system you develop. If you have a divination that if you want yes, no, your very basic thing, whether it is just a pendulum that says no or yes, depending on how it behaves, or whether you are doing upright and upside down cards in tarot, and which there are more of. Yes and no is probably the first thing most people will want to know. The next thing that you what do you need? You need to know who, where, what, why, and who, what, where, when, and why. And when, if when is important, you darn well better put something in that will help you know, is it a long time from now? Is it the past? Is it the future? These things are important, and you have to figure out how you're going to do that. Has anybody else, this is important, I need to ask, has anyone else developed systems for themselves?
Yep.
Rebecca, say, I guess I'm the moderator here.
Yes, you are.
I have. And it's interesting, all the pieces that you're talking about, because I'm looking at the set that I created and nodding, because not only do I use symbols as opposed to distinct pictures, there is a color aspect that indicates a positive, destructive, or neutral, which is very useful in yes/no questions. There's also the layouts, which gives me, okay, this is where this one fits in your timeline, or this is the aspect. I don't look at a person by gender or by features. I look at how are they as a person, what aspects of them as a person. Are they noble? Are they antagonistic? That's where these symbols come into play. So what I did, considering tarot did not resonate, which is a big deal, I think, for readers too, it has to resonate. I actually had started working with the symbols of the Kabyle, which is a subset of the Amazigh in North Africa. They're often called the Berbers. And my husband is half, so I am Kabyle by marriage. So I'm not just picking out of the ether, which is another thing I think is important. And created what I call the Kahina stones. Kahina meaning wise woman in the word of the Kabyle. Sorry about the noise in the background, that's the other half. So they go with symbols that indicate, and here's the 3 colorways as well, that indicate what a thing is. And in general, they're very definitive. This, for instance, is a hammer.
Okay.
And the green means fruitful, which is the positive aspect of the tile. So if I pulled this for a yes/no question, the answer would be yes. And the hammer meaning it's going to be hard work. You're gonna hit your finger with a nail, but it's with the hammer when you're trying to put that nail in, but it's gonna be worth the effort. So you know, not only get a yes, you get why is it yes. Blue in my set, because I make these for others and have books and sell them, blue is neutral or unfettered. And it usually means I'm not telling you, or I don't know, but here's why. You know, the symbol gives you some context, and then brown is drought, and then the symbol gives you why. So I used a set of symbols that already existed, but in a way that was unique to them as far as I knew. but it addresses all of you can use it as a yes, no, you can use it to figure out like just a yearly general. You can use it based on the different layouts, specific kinds of questions, and you can use it for layouts that come from other divination systems as well. Generally, I've tested it with like tarot layouts, and it tends to work with a little bit of adjustment. So it's been rather fun and rather disturbing to work with over the past 10 years.
I have a question.
Yes.
Any chance we can get you to come back and we can spend an entire hour having you talk about the system?
Yes, we can do that.
Goody. Okay. Well, I'll talk to you on Facebook about that, because I think that I bought a set, but I haven't, I can't look at them immediately know that's the hammer and that's the route.
Understood. Understood.
But it's exciting.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that you had worked on that. So, but you have to know what the symbols mean.
Mm-hmm. Which is why when we sell sets, we have a handy dandy book. And I still use this after 10 years of working with the symbols. Occasionally my brain goes, and I'm like, okay, what was that one again? So.
And I find with any divination, I think you can go from the little white book in whatever the pack of whatever the symbols are.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can just go with a psychic reading and hope that you get a meaning out of it, whether it was the intended one or not. But
well, and sometimes it's both too. Knowing the base of it is a good start, but you still have to get your own intuitive, okay, is there more to this?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know the question you're asking, because I try not to have the question in front of me. So that they're getting a better reading rather than my opinion. You're not asking my opinion, you're asking this. But
basically what I'm saying is that you have to, it's like knowing the math facts. Once you're able to deal with equations better, when you automatically know that 7 times 7 is 49, you don't have to stop and work it out.
Right.
So once you have learned the symbols, you're better off. Which is why I'm saying make your own symbolism. I mean, use symbols that you know. Use symbols that are so second nature to you, you don't have to think. But funny story, we were out car shopping once, and I didn't have cards on me for some reason. And so I pulled the various frequent shopper cards out of the back of my wallet and laid them down in the tarot Celtic cross spread. And whether it was the pizza shop or the fabric shop or the whatever the credit card or the photograph of the fam, we AAA card, they all totally made sense in the position of that. We knew tarot, we knew the Celtic cross spread backwards and forwards, and we knew what those cards meant. Part of why color theory and symbolism was very heavy in work. It's a very personal system. When you know a symbol well, it's going to work. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Did you have more to share on that? Oh, anybody else? Did anybody else have a system that they have developed or worked on?
Well, I've been working on one off and on for longer than I care to think about, of an oracle deck using a theme of emergency medical services. I spent 18 years as an EMT, so that's something that is very close to me. So I've been using computer clip art because I cannot draw worth a hoot to create some cards. I've only got about a dozen done, but I need to start working on it again. So I'm hoping to get some more ideas here too.
Oh, we may be able to help with that. So, anybody else?
I mentioned something about one I've read with these.
Oh, go. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I did not draw them as a It's like, these are the symbols that I'm trying to, that you want in a deck of cards. I just drew them because I was drawing them. Or something that I think is important is the person who I'm reading for, which is usually her because I'm just messing around with it, initial reaction to it. And something that I'm going to use in the future is if at any point I'm putting this out and someone thinks, oh, that drawing looks like this person, that is probably what the card is trying to tell you. That person is involved in your question. And your initial reaction, I think, is very, and the initial reaction of the person you're reading for is very important in any system of divination, even if that does mean that one particular picture of the Seventh Doctor you interpreted as keep on trucking because he was drawn in extreme perspective because the reference picture you're sitting on.
I saw Mr. Natural. Hey, I'm a creature of my past.
Yes.
But yeah, this is we can do this. And I think that when you know some, whether it's EMTs, you could do one on the physical body, you could do one for nutrition, you can do a divination system of wildflowers. What you're just, I once was walking a labyrinth, which was never a big thing for me, but I noticed the clover and then the plantain, and suddenly walking the labyrinth became the plants talked to me. I knew what they meant, and therefore those symbols spoke to me, and it made the trip along the labyrinth symbolic for me.
There is actually a divination deck that I've seen that's based on different herbs. And the person who did the reading for me did that and then took some of those associations, like with the pictures, and went to a feather deck to build on. Yeah.
Ooh.
It was a kick butt reading. It's kicked me right in the tuchus, but it was a very, very good one. You can jump from system to system.
Yeah, I'm wondering, have you ever heard of Shelley Hansen and her shells? Have
Yes,
you ever
we've had her on.
Huh?
We've had her on. I think her class is in the 2020. She did that class in the 2020 Changing Times things.
Okay.
If you want to see it,
I know Shelley. I've sat next to her a couple of times in various fairs, and I actually gave her a shell that she never had. She didn't know it, and it was a chiton, and so that was, added that in. So she's another one where you were saying flowers, and I'm thinking stones, yes, and also shells. She's got quite an amazing collection.
She was a marine biologist.
Yes.
Who just knew what specifically mollusks, she knew all about them, and she turned it into a divination system that rocks.
Yeah, and she was telling me, and this may possibly be why my mother named me Shelley.
Could be.
It was perfect. Yeah, it was a perfect circle. Yeah.
Well, and I think that really is the biggest thing about any kind of divination system. And I know we addressed this in the chat a little bit because Jonathan, you'd asked, where it really has to resonate. It really has to resonate. I joke that, I couldn't learn tarot, so I spent 10 years developing something different that was the simpler path. But it really was a matter of, I loved the deck I had. It's a beautiful piece of art, but I could not get it to stick because it just didn't resonate. So the symbols you use or the images you use, excuse me, Hatchie, have to resonate. She just took off with my straw. So if they don't, you're not going to get anywhere.
That's me exactly. I collected several decks that I just loved the artwork on. I kept trying to learn, and I could never get any symbolism to stick at all. A friend of mine recently came up with this deck, Broke Bitch Tarot. Too much reflectiveness here. She sells it inexpensively. The images are all contemporary images of people. Okay, my background is playing havoc with this. Okay. Yeah, that's not going to work. And I invited her for tonight in hopes she could make it, but she couldn't. This I can just lay out and read. And where I get creative isn't with trying to devise my own system with symbols and everything. I expand on the questions. I expand on the layout in all kinds of ways. I did a 3-card layout for a friend not long ago. And on the 3rd card, I kept looking for where this situation was supposed to end. I think I laid out about 6 cards in a row, expanding on it, that all led continuing down the same path and getting worse. And finally, there was a resolution of some kind. And if she had asked another question about the same situation, I probably would have found a way to answer it. I tend to be creative about what, I will observe things and just get a reading off of the world around me. It never occurred to me to think about devising my own symbols. I'm not sure what I would use. I thought about feathers today. Yeah, that's the only thing. As usual, I don't have anything really pertinent to say.
Well, that was you shared it. You shared your experiences, and that's always good.
Yeah.
And let's see. Oh yes, Willow wanted me to make sure that I had said, don't let the whatever divination system, it should not be making your decisions for you. We should keep the phrase should out of questions, not what should I do, but what can I do? What is going to happen if I do this thing? What is the most likely scenario if I make this choice, or what? Don't ask it what to do, but ask it for more information that you might not be able to get another way. One of the things that you can use it for is the word divination comes from divine, is that you can use it to find out the will of the gods, because of course the ancient Greeks and Romans were very worried about ticking off the gods and having them get petty on their butt. So because that's the way the Greek and Roman gods were. Very egotistical, very, very angry with the people who were supposed to owe them whatever. So you had to be very careful not to piss them off. So,
one of the things that I remember, I ask if when I ask someone, is there a particular issue or question? And the one that drives me the craziest is they'll say, no, not really, just my life. It's like
Right.
huge. So I say, okay, one of the ways to rephrase the question is, what do I need to know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's always a really good starting point, is what do I need to know? And then in my particular thing is I'll make phrases out of the alignment or the proximity or the distance between different bones. And so I'll make up a phrase that will hopefully answer the question. And then you were talking, Chipacon, you were talking about time. And I have on mine, I've got a hand stitched, an embroidery stitch that indicates times, and they can either be in months or days, usually by months. How far it's, well, I see that in about, let me see, about 3 months or sometime in, April or March, I see this happening. So that's one way to kind of keep it within a doable format, doable time frame. So.
And I've found if I get a should question, or if I try to ask a should question, I'll usually get one of those blue tiles, which of course is an unfettered tile. And it's like, I'm not telling you, this is why I'm not telling you. And it usually has something to do with change. Thanks. No thanks.
Another thing which I think is important for us to remember is, well, there's 2 points I want to make. I see we're getting end of the time allotted, is that you have to focus and direct it. If you are shooting an arrow or a gun or driving a car, you have to freaking aim. And the car is a better analogy, because then if the road turns, you can turn with it. But the important thing when you're asking a question is you have to focus. You do a reading of any sort and you didn't focus and you get, this is random. But you focus on it and you say, this, I need the answer to this, and then bang, you get your answer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is an important thing. You have to focus and direct without a question, you don't get an answer. And if you start making up your own class, your own system, test it, write it down, write down what the question was, write down what the answers were in whatever the symbols were, how you interpreted it. This is one of the coolest things about Dragon Bones, which is the oldest divination system we have around, where they would take plastrons of turtles or scapulas and the ancient Chinese would heat up a metal pin and put it on it, and it would make cracks in the turtle shell or the bone, and they would interpret the cracks. But the coolest thing was they then on the back of the bone or the plastron would scratch in what the question was and what the answer was, and then sometimes what happened. And that's what we need to do. And we've got notebooks.
All kinds of journals available.
we can do this, and we can write down, and then you can go back to it and say, oh, did that happen? Kat showed me something very funny. Look up on YouTube, or I think it is, The Cheese of Truth. A very funny, and that I think that means that Jenny has seen it.
No, I haven't actually.
The Cheese of Truth. And
It's fine. It's only 7 seconds long.
6 seconds long, and it's Swiss cheese, and you put it on a newspaper or something with small writing, and then you can read what appears through the holes. Very funny.
Okay.
But
I don't do it with the Daily Mail because they're very biased, and you'll get an answer like immigrants cause cancer.
But okay, so that is okay. Here we have another one. I'm okay. That is if you look in the chat, I think that is the thing to watch, The Cheese of Truth. So remember, these are the basic things. When you're designing it, use symbols that you know backwards and forwards. Use symbolism that you understand. Preferably symbolism the people you're reading for will get, because if it's not symbolism they'll get, you're going to have a lot of explaining to do, which is why just scrying or psychometry is such a pain in the tush to try and get to
Don't base it on your own personal fan fiction.
Yeah, base it on a well-known fan fiction. Base it on the story on Harry Potter or whatever. I mean, you can, if you know, what house are you in? Most people in America, in England, I suppose, know what, if you say Gryffindor versus Hufflepuff, wonderful. People have a general concept of, hey, what's your sign? Which is so oversimplified, but we all know that Scorpios are supposed to be oversexed, and Taurus are supposed to be stubborn.
But
But
you're not.
what you know is what is going to make a good system for you. And ain't nothing wrong with it. There is no reason in the world not to interpret your breakfast. if you feel called to it, if that is something that you feel to. Are there any other points or
I just
questions?
wanted to say something.
Yeah.
When you're doing your divination system, don't forget about your other senses. A lot of people are only focused on what you can see. For me, it's all in the smell. That's how I do mine. But for others who, even if they're not, visually impaired, the texture of your runes will tell you something, even if you don't see them. Texture of, anything you're touching, various fabrics, the texture, the lacquer on the cards that you're pulling. There are so many other sensations that you can work on. You can do, like you were speaking with, I believe last time, audio. You make your music playlist. You can do your trancing. You can do your meditation with all that. Just don't focus just on visualization with your eyes. Work on everything else as well. That's all I wanted to add.
Good.
Don't limit yourself to that if that's not what resonates. Absolutely.
Because one of the things that I was going to say that we use that people have used is channel surfing. I don't know if you've ever done that with the radio, and you just catch one or two words and then change channels, and one or two words and change channels and string them together.
Okay.
It's usually better to have one person writing while the other person is moving the knob. And you can get some really good readings out of that. It doesn't make sense, but it sometimes, and people have done it with the remote and just doing that. And that's usually audio. So
Yeah, it's almost
that
like
is-
bibliomania.
Yeah.
Going up to bookshelves and just kind of randomly pulling a book, open a page. And sometimes
Yep.
the books fall out and hit me on the head.
Mm.
Yes, they have been known to do that. And that'll do it. I like bibliomania as opposed to bibliomancy. It's so I would like to thank you all. I will tell you to tell your friends about Changing Times, Changing Worlds, both the conference, which is not till November, and and what we do is we are a place where you can talk about things like this without having to check and see if the audience is amenable to this kind of conversation, which is a great freedom. Next week, we're going to have Morgan Dabler is going to be telling us everything that people know about fairies that's wrong. So that should be a fun one. And so, but word of mouth is our best way of advertising. Tell your friends, tell them about the conference, tell them about the website, ctcw.net. And so join us there. There's a bunch of old audio that you can get, some free, some not. The shows are free, so that's always fun. And I will see you again.
Generally within the next 24 hours, this recording will get posted onto our YouTube channel.
Thank you, Lois. Lois does it. I don't know how. So good at babbling, bad at tech. So thank you so much for coming.
Nice.
Good show. Thank you, everyone.
I got ideas already.
Pardon?
I have ideas already.
Oh, good. Yes, well, get your questions ready for Morgan, and then we'll see if we can get Rebecca to tell us more about her divination system. And if you have, and put on the Facebook group if you have any ideas for workshops or panels or discussions you'd like to see.
I'm working on it.
We will, just tell me, because I'm cool. There's nothing a speaker likes better than to know that the audience is eager to hear it. So anyway, I guess I'm going to turn it off now. Hi. And
Good to see y'all.
hi everyone. And I'm going to stop the recording. Stop the recording. Yes, stop the recording.